Challenging the might of the sea has always been a fascinating part of a fisherman's life. It is a boon as long as he gets a good harvest and returns home safely. Each day, thousands of small-scale fishermen set out to sea to earn their livelihood. For centuries, these marine fisherfolk have carefully fished the inshore waters, using a rich legacy of indigenous knowledge, traditional wisdom, and respect for the environment. Their catch was small, and markets even smaller. The application of low-level indigenous technology to exploit the coastal fishery resources prevented depletion of resources, giving the sea adequate time to rejuvenate, to offer a good catch again, as well as a sustainable livelihood. But with passing generations, the human population increased and markets for fish grew larger. Fishermen started overexploiting the sea without giving it time to let the fish population regenerate, harvesting both the breeding stock as well as the juveniles. This has led to overfishing in the shallow inshore area, and the marine ecosystem got endangered. In India, over 6.5 million fisherfolk living on the 8,100 kilometers of its shoreline are in the danger of losing their livelihood. Today, there are too many boats chasing too few fish. Disrespect for the delicate balance of nature is taking a huge toll on sustainability of fisheries and fishermen. To ensure long-term sustainable fisheries, the Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, adopted the Code of Conduct for Responsible Fisheries. The Government of India translated the Code of Conduct into action through the Comprehensive Marine Fishing Policy. This policy focuses on the conservation, management, and long-term sustainable use of India's marine wealth. In simple terms, it is a set of guidelines that will make fishing a livelihood option on a long-term basis. The Code of Conduct stresses that all those involved in fisheries and aquaculture should work together to conserve and manage fish resources and their habitats. The Code of Conduct is not compulsory, but it appeals to all the stakeholders to adopt voluntarily, as this will guarantee profitable supplies of fish for future generations. The Indian subcontinent covers a vast region with long coastlines and different ecosystems. The open access nature of marine capture fisheries in India is one of the major reasons for depletion, economic waste, and conflict among various users. Although there are laws that restrict fishing seasons, fishing areas, and mesh sizes of gear, there is no satisfactory monitoring and surveillance to ensure implementation. Without control over access, the sustainable management of fishery resources will become more difficult. The Marine Fisheries Policy acknowledges the need to move away from the open access concept in territorial waters and put in place stringent management regimes. More than the legal and statutory management system, what is required is voluntary conservation measures by creating the required awareness amongst the stakeholders about the realities in the life of oceans. Fishing must be stopped in vulnerable areas and the number of boats drastically reduced. Marine systems can be replenished each year only if given the natural opportunity to multiply and grow. Unemployment during the rejuvenation season can be dealt with by encouraging the development of mariculture activities and other vocational activities. The large area of estuaries, backwaters, and lagoons are suitable for developing culture fisheries, seaweed farming, cage culture, and other activities. Fish farming would cultivate the same fish species, thereby reducing the stress on the sea and at the same time generate incomes. The excess seed or fry farm culture activities can be let into sea, that is, sea ranching to enhance its resources. Traditional fisherfolk knew how to coexist with nature. Many traditional practices of marine fisherfolk are environment friendly and based on population dynamics. They have kept fish habitats healthy over the years, ensuring their survival. The Code of Conduct also appeals that fish habitats, such as mangroves, reefs, and lagoons, must be protected from destruction and pollution to allow fish resources to multiply and to allow the human race to enjoy nature's law. Fishermen today need to revive these old traditions and adapt them suitably. Due to years of overfishing, the fish resource within the 50 meters depth zone has already crossed optimum levels of exploitation at most places in the inshore areas. Traditional fishermen are now left with no option but to venture in the deep seas to scout for more fish to improve their catch. But this is not an easy task. The main marine fish production still comes from the small-scale sector that uses traditional craft like katumarams and vallams that cannot cross the deep sea. The Code of Conduct promotes the use of versatile type of motorized beach landing craft using fiber reinforced plastic as a hull material. Originally developed by the erstwhile Bay of Bengal program, BOBP, of FAO, these small FRP motorized boats are light and travel with speed. They also have easier beach landing capabilities. Usage of these boats has been successful in Andhra Pradesh and Orissa, where it boosted fishermen's catches and incomes as they were able to tap fish resources found beyond the range of traditional craft. This program is one of the main schemes on marine fishermen funded by the Government of India, known as motorization of traditional crafts. The effects of fishing gear on the environment should be understood by fishermen. Fishing gear and fishing methods that are not selected, or which cause high levels of waste, should be phased out. The Code of Conduct promotes the use of selective fishing gear and other methods to protect spawners and juveniles. The aim is to catch bigger fish with bigger mesh-sized nets or with hooks and lines. This will promote high survival rate for escaping fish and post-harvest losses can be minimized. Passive gear like travel nets and small mesh gill nets are best used inshore up to 20 meters depth. Large mesh gill nets and drift nets are used offshore up to 30 meters depth, and long lines and hand lines are the best gear for deeper waters. Active fishing methods that pull through the water like trawl nets, boat seines and beach seines and drag nets must have bigger mesh at cord ends, otherwise they would retain the young fish and shrimp. Each coastline has its own resources and fish types. Therefore, the net size or the mesh size fixed by the state governments according to their own coastal area should be adhered to. For example, in areas where oil sardines are in surplus, a special mesh size is used during the particular fishing season. The Central Institute of Fisheries, Nautical and Engineering Training, or CIFNET, is encouraging young boys to study fisheries nautical science. The training imparted at CIFNET will ensure that in future, fishing craft are supported by the right infrastructure, right combination of fishing gear to suit the fishing grounds. This in turn will ensure more fish in the ocean for the fishermen to catch in future and for better incomes. Although focus of the Code of Conduct is mainly on fishing operations, the scope of the code includes the capture, processing, and trade of fish and fish products, fishing operations, aquaculture, fisheries research, and the integration of fisheries into the coastal area. It includes all aspects of fisheries, from the fishing ground to the final consumer. The development of the deep-sea fishery industry has impacted the management of nearshore fisheries, shore-based infrastructure, and post-harvest activities. Infrastructure development for marine fisheries has been taken up with an integrated approach. The harbors and landing centers are safe havens for fishing vessels. The fish resources are diverse, and small-scale fishermen operate from thousands of landing places scattered along the coast. The fishing harbors and loading centers are well-designed, tidy, and hygienic, with facilities to service vessels, vendors, and fish buyers. Facilities include provisions for fuel, water and ice, and repairs to vessels, and drying platforms for fishing gear. More importantly, hygienic post-harvest handling of fish has been woven into the project. Large mechanized boats now enable the fishermen to go further into the sea. But the real deep-sea fishing is left to the bigger trawlers. To avoid overfishing, the size of the fishing fleet should not be too large for the natural supply of fish. Fishermen set out to sea and return after 7 or 8 days, carrying all their provisions on board the boat. Under the post-harvest fisheries project, the development of insulated fish boxes aboard navas of Andhra Pradesh have been successful in improving the quality of fish, ensuring better prices. Large ice boxes built into the trawlers allow them to freeze the catch at sea, preserving the quality of the fish. With the development of preservation techniques like handling of catch on board, as well as onshore salting, drying, and icing, opportunities for selling fish in larger markets have grown. The health and safety of fishers is clearly spelled out in the Code of Conduct. Fisherfolk who are actively engaged in fisheries must be registered or licensed with the respective state governments. Registration facilitates safety. To make fishing systematic, it is required that the fishermen be identified and recognized so that they don't trespass the permitted areas, especially during the ban period when fishing is not allowed. This will bring an equitable distribution in usage of fish resources amongst fisherfolk of different regions and thus minimize conflicts. The Code of Conduct also mandates for boats to carry some basic life-saving equipment for search and rescue. Currently, many fishermen do not follow this rule. Fishing vessels should also display their country's flag prominently. This way, fishing can be done in a responsible manner and in accordance with rules, regulations, or laws that may be applied by a country. Additionally, the fishermen can take advantage of technological advancement in weather predictions, such as warnings of cyclone, typhoon, and tsunami. The local administration regularly monitors the weather and can prevent fishermen from venturing out to sea during rough weather. Much attention has been given to the development of deep-sea fisheries. The creation of an exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, in 1976 gave India jurisdiction over an area of 2.02 million square kilometers, including 0.5 million square kilometers of continental shelf. The EEZ has facilitated exploration, exploitation, and utilization of marine resources in the sea around India, extending 200 nautical miles. The country now has immense opportunities to harvest these resources and to manage them in a scientific manner. The Code of Conduct advocates systematic collection and recording of data on fish landings, species size, conditions of fish and their habitats. And so, the Fisheries Survey of India is responsible for the survey and assessment of marine fishery resources in the EEZ. The FSI monitors the fishery resources for predicting the size of the fish stock and its movement, and produce maps of fishing intensity which can help in locating potential grounds without wasting time in search of it by different types of fishing craft. It also assesses the suitability of different types of craft and gear for deep sea and ocean fishing. The Code of Conduct advocates restraint in fishing and moderation in behavior. A spirit of cooperation is essential among fishermen. According to tradition, once fishermen are out at sea, they must maintain a bond of friendship and help each other out in a crisis. The time has come to revive the age-old traditions of camaraderie on the deep sea. This way, fishery will be managed well, so that fishing and processing are conducted in ways that protect the environment, reduce waste, and preserve the quality of the fish caught. Fish is a source of health and nutrition, and there must be an awareness of the effects of environmental factors on aquatic resources. The Code of Conduct advocates that fisheries should be managed well, so that fishing and processing are conducted in ways that protect the environment, reduce waste, and preserve the quality of fish caught. The sea is not a dumping ground, and fishermen should not pollute the sea with garbage. The owners and crew of fishing vessels should ensure that waste discharges do not pollute the sea and environment. To protect fish resources, dynamiting, poisoning, and other destructive fishing practices should be prohibited. Once the boats reach the shore, the catch is sold and money shared equally by members of the crew. Species-wise, croakers account for the largest marine fish landings, followed by Indian mackerel and Indian oil sardines. Shark, yellowfin tuna, and skipjack are caught in the deep seas. The Code of Conduct also makes efforts to comply fully with international requirements in pre- and post-harvest care of catch, so as to achieve the highest standards in food safety and to minimize post-harvest losses. Fish must be cleaned after capture and sold in a hygienic and tidy environment. The post-harvest infrastructure includes developing fish preservation and storage facilities like freezing, canning, ice making, and fish meal plants, cold storage, and peeling sheds. The post-harvest fish handling practices have improved significantly, and therefore the quantity of fish traveling the length and breadth of the country has increased. Refrigerated fish can now travel great distances to reach markets that offer the best prices. The Integrated Fisheries Project at Cochin has the slipway facility for repair of boats, an ice-cum-freezing plant, and a modern fish processing unit. Its products are exported to all parts of the country. While the men are out at sea, the women play a large role in the marketing and processing of fish. Large quantities of small fish, which otherwise would be wasted, are processed as dry fish, even on board the boats, soon after they are caught. Drying is one of the oldest preservation methods. and is a large income generator for women. The process of curing is done simply by sun drying, smoking, and salting methods. But care must be taken not to dry fish on the sand where bacteria thrive. So drying is done hygienically on platforms, ropes, or drying racks. The cured fish is sold throughout the year and is even exported to other parts of the country as well as outside. All over the country, fisherfolk in some small way are following the principles of the Code of Conduct. Here at a village meeting, fisherfolk talk about a clean environment, unnecessary catch of juvenile fish. They talk about bank loans and government schemes available that will help them start new projects like pisciculture and mariculture. The National Scheme of Welfare of Fishermen aims to provide better standards of living through social and economic security for fishers and their families. This collaborative program of the state and union governments addresses issues like insurance against accident and disability, the provision of housing and water, credit to procure fishing equipment, and a savings scheme to provide income during the lean fishing season. In an effort to educate and train fishermen and fish farmers so that they can be involved in developing and implementing policies to ensure sustainable fisheries. The Department of Fisheries has been popularizing the Code of Conduct among fisherfolk all over the country. The code has been translated into several regional languages to make it comprehensible to a large section of the fishing community. Because the code is voluntary, it is necessary to ensure that all people working in fisheries and aquaculture commit themselves to its principles and goals and take practical measures to implement them. If the Code of Conduct for Responsible Fisheries is implemented successfully by all stakeholders, only then will fish and fisheries products be available for consumption for both the present and future generations. In the longer run, such responsible behavior will give good results in terms of the improved status of fish stocks, a more reliable contribution to food security, and sustained income earning opportunities. To be effective, the Code of Conduct must not merely be understood by all, but implemented by all. A new day, a new dawn, and sure enough, new challenges to face as the fishermen set out to sea.